Hey, Pastor Josh here. We're reading Mark chapter 14, verses 60 through 65. Jesus is now standing before his accusers. He is now on his mock trial. Now the high priest is asking Jesus. The high priest stood up in the midst and asked Jesus, "Have you no answer to make?" Remember, they're not quite agreeing on the charges against Jesus. And then one person or a group of people came up and started saying, "Hey, he said he'll destroy the temple and he'll rebuild it in 3 days. He's against the temple." And even in that element, they didn't even agree. So they're lying. They're making these false accusations. They're not agreeing. High priest then asks them, "Have you no answer to make?" What is it that these men testify against you? What is it exactly that they're saying? Do you not have anything to say against them? And then Jesus said, but he remained silent and made no answer. Jesus did not respond. I think that's a good example for us to follow. There are so many times that we want to defend ourselves, that we want to, in the fleshly side of ourselves, we want to defend ourselves. We want to make things right. We want to say, "No, you don't understand," or "No, it was this way," or "No, it was that way." We don't just let our actions and our deeds stand for it. And oftentimes, the best thing that we can do is to keep our mouths shut, to remain silent, and to just do what is right and what is good. And we see that is what Jesus is doing here. He's not going to play the game of trying to explain why they misunderstood what he was saying or why all these people are contradicting themselves. We're told in the book of Proverbs that we should not answer a fool according to his folly. And so when someone is just not in a state to hear it, if somebody's not in a state to really receive what you're going to say, it is actually better off for you to remain silent and to not say anything at all. And we see Christ doing that. Now, that's not his only tactic, because we're going to see him speaking here in just a moment. But he knows this would be foolishness for him to respond to the lies that they are saying. But he does respond to this next question. Again, the high priest asked him, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?" Okay, he's trying to get a particular thing for Jesus to admit to, that then he would be crucified for, that he would be at least sentenced for. And then Jesus said, "I am. I am the Christ. I am. That's me." If you remember, all throughout the book of Mark, it's been the messianic secret. It's always been hush hush. Let's not tell people that I am the Messiah. And now he comes on full display saying, "Yes, I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, coming with the clouds of heaven." And this Son of Man is a reference back to that Daniel passage about the Son of Man's with the Ancient of Days. And so this is a claim to divinity. This is a claim to being God. And Jesus here, I have that as a blue. This is a promise. You are going to see Jesus, the Son of Man, seated at the right hand of power. You're going to see him in this way, and you're going to see him coming, returning. You're going to see him coming back, and that's a promise that we can claim. Christ will return one day. Jesus is saying that. It's a promise he makes. And then let's look at how the high priest responds. The high priest tore his garments. He's in great distress because he understands what Jesus is saying. He's making a claim to be God. And he said, "This is all we need. We don't need anything else." And he said, "What further witnesses do we need? You have heard his blasphemy." He's claiming to be this Son of Man. He's claiming to be this Ancient of Days. What is your decision? And they all condemned him as deserving death. So you're seeing, like, Jesus, very wise, obviously, the most wise person. And we've seen him get out of sticky situations time and time again. And this time, he doesn't say something that is correct or in a way that is going to get him out of the situation. He says, "I am the Messiah." and he gives them all the ammunition they need to have him sentenced. And they all condemned him to death. Deserving death is what they did. And some began to spit on him. So then it gets even worse. I mean, all of this is sin. They're condemning Christ, the only perfect one, but then they spit on him. They further mock him. And then they cover his face, and they strike him, and they say to him, "Prophesy." And the guards received him with blows. So it's just this elaborate mocking scheme they have. They cover his eyes, then they hit him and then say, "Okay, well, who hit you? Who struck you? Who is it that's beating you right now? Tell us who it is." Just this terrible mocking and beating that is beginning at this point. And of course, that is sin. We have to remember that every time we sin, all of our sin is essentially us spitting in the face of Jesus. It's essentially us mocking Jesus. It is essentially us putting Christ on the cross and holding him there. That's why it's important for us to confess our sins so that he will be faithful and just to forgive us. We have that promise. But we don't want to play around with sin. We don't want to leave sin hanging on us. We want to put it off and put on Christ's righteousness. Pray that's been a blessing to you. I'll see you in the next video.